Hi everyone. So today we will be going through the role of cache management in intelligent storage system. So you might be knowing what is an intelligent storage system, as it is another type of an storage architecture which overcomes some disadvantages related to the traditional architecture, because here it is dealing about automations and analytics, because it has the ability to, the human interventions are much more less compared to that of traditional storage systems. So it has the ability to segregate the data into frequently accessed and non-frequently accessed. We call it as a hot data and cold data. So apart from the components, we will be seeing the role of the cache management in intelligent storage system. It's like how the data is going to take from the cache management, or how the data is getting accessed, or how the data is getting stored in very efficient manner. Now you might be knowing the term cache. So it's like a fastest memory. So here the cache management does play a very important role in an information storage system. So we do have some several operations to learn. So it's like we cannot say that cache it's like a permanent memory. No, it's like a temporary memory, which means whatever frequent data is there, it will get stored into the cache management. So that is the general thing that we are hearing a lot about the cache management. But in the case of ISS, it is a bit different. Like we can customize the functionality. Now let's see the functionalities one by one. So these are the key functions of the cache management, like the data, how the data is going to be stored. Then there are some policies that we will be learning, that like LRU, MRU, so that we will be learning. Then how the write operations, which means how the data is being stored and how the data is being accessed, and the error handling. Now let's see the first thing, which means the read operation with cache. Then we will go for the storing the data. So read operation, it's like you need to think, it's like how it is going to access the data. So there are two possibilities, that like the data can be stored in either cache memory or physical our physical disk, our permanent storage. So here there are two possibilities, like it can be cache hit or cache miss. Now when I say about a cache hit, means if the data is being found in the cache, which means we don't have to go to the physical storage. So which means like to be more precise, the more earlier we will get the data. So that particular data can either be frequently accessed. So it will be based on the storage of that particular cache memory. So if the data is found in the cache, immediately we can send it to the host. So which means it will reduce the time, and it will improve the performance much more easier. So that particular term we call it as a cache hit. Now, what about cache miss? Which means just the opposite. If the data has been not found in the cache, the system will fetch the data from the physical disk, which is of a permanent storage. So this will happen if the data is not being frequently accessed, or it can be a old data. So those data definitely it will be there in the physical disk. So here it's not like the time, it will take a little bit much more time compared to that of a cache hit. Now, these are the two possibilities when it comes to the read operation. Now, this is the just the diagrammatic representation. So, you guys will be getting a clear understanding how the data is being read. Like two possibilities are there. The data can be accessed from either in cache memory or either in physical disk. So, if it is read from cache memory, we will call it as a read hit. Or if it is found in physical disk, we call it as a read miss. Then the next operation, next functionality is storing the data in the cache, which means the write operation. So the read operation accessing is done. So write operation, again, there are two possibilities, write through cache and write back cache. So it's like, the data is being, we are going to store the particular data. So as we are having both cache and physical disk, we need to take the decisions very seriously. So there are two possibilities that we can, store the data. So first thing is write through cache. So here when a particular user is going to store a data, the data at that particular time itself, the data will get returned into both cache memory as well as disk memory simultaneously. Okay, so again, the cache memories, the cache memories storage is another factor, but apart from that, we are not going to discuss on that. But apart from that, if I'm going to store a particular data, at the same time, that data will get stored into cache memory as well as in physical storage, so that data loss won't be happen. So suppose if the cache in one day, the cache memory got full, so that I have that backup, which means I have the data which is being stored in my physical disk, which is in my permanent storage. So I'm okay with that. So that is one of the advantage of by using this particular method called write through cache. Now what about write back cache? So write back cache is nothing but the data is written first in the cache, but in the case of physical disk, which means our permanent storage, it is being written later. Okay, so the thing is that the data can be stored very much fastly, but the thing is that if something happens to my cache, the entire data will get lost. That is another kind of disadvantage of this particular method. The thing is that within less amount of time, the data will get stored because it is only writing in cache, not in the physical disk. Later only it is getting copied into physical disk. But in between, if something happens to my cache, my entire data will get lost. But here in the first method, what is happening means the data is getting written in both cache and physical disk. So it will take a little process because simultaneously the work is happening. So this is the two possibilities that we can store the data. Then comes some policies. There are some algorithms that we can use in the cache management system in ISS. So the first one is LRU. So LRU means least recently used. So it's like this algorithm, there are certain algorithm. So this algorithm is used to identify the data which has not been used for the longest time, which means if you are not frequently, if that particular users is not frequently using that particular data, there is no need for storing it in the cache memory, which means we can automatically ask them to go to the physical storage, which means the permanent storage. So that is what this algorithm is being used. Now what about this most recently used? Here this is just the opposite, which means here older data, it is giving much more preferences compared to the frequently accessed data. So here most recently used data is being removed from the cache memory, and the older data, which means it can be a fixed, some kind of fixed data, that is being stored in the cache memory. Then comes the FIFO. FIFO means first in first out, which means when the cache becomes full. Now suppose there might be a scenario where the cache will become full. So here the thing is that the oldest data, which means it's like a first comes first serve. So when whatever data is coming on the first, after days it will become old, so those datas will remove out first. So it's not categorizing based on the frequency of the data, it is based on the concept called FIFO, first in first out. So whatever data is coming in the first cases, when days goes on it will become old. So in case if my cache will becomes full, that particular old data will get moved out first. Then comes a random replacement. So random replacement is like they will take a own decision because it is an intelligent storage system. So this algorithm, it's like randomly it will if the cache becomes full, randomly it will ask the uh, data to go to the physical storage. So here we are not giving any kind of a preferences or first in first out preferences. So it's like randomly just choosing, and it's placing that particular data to the physical storage when the cache becomes full. So this is the functionality of the cache management, the entire functionality of the cache management in intelligent storage system. So thank you so much guys, thank you so much for your time.